A beam of white light swallowed the entire space. Min and Anne felt as if they were torn away from the ground, falling into a void without gravity. The sound of wind disappeared, replaced by an eerie silence. When he opened his eyes, Min found himself standing on a transparent plain. Beneath it, an endless void where stars spun like a river of light. Beside him, Anne trembled, clutching his arm tightly. "Professor, where is this?" "This isn't Earth." Her voice broke. Before them, a long corridor appeared, winding like the veins of a colossal organism. The walls pulsed with shifting colors as if breathing. Suddenly, a deep voice echoed in their minds. "You have opened the fracture. We have awaited this for long." A giant figure stepped out from the end of the corridor. Its form was 3 times Min's height, glowing blue all over, eyes burning like twin flames. It had no mouth, yet each word resonated clearly. Anne staggered back, her face pale. They look exactly like what Naru once saw. But Min stood firm, his eyes glinting with both awe and clarity. He whispered, "Then the legend." All of it was true. The being raised its hand. Without touching, Min and Anne felt a hot surge flood their minds. Images burst forth, ancient tribes huddled around fire. Naru standing tall, her eyes fixed on the radiance. An entire civilization rising in brilliance, then collapsing into a sea of fire. The voice continued, "You carry within you the memory of Naru. We sow the seed, but it is your kind who decide what the tree will become." Now that the fracture opens again, the choice begins anew. Min drew a deep breath, forcing calm. "If you planted the seed, then why condemn our ancestors to tragedy? Why did Naru have to witness her tribe's destruction?" The void trembled, as if the being itself faltered. Then it answered slowly, "Without tragedy, there is no will." Naru chose to face it. Others chose to kneel. That difference kept the fire of your kind alive. Anne cried out, tears streaming. "But what about us? What do you want us to choose?" "To keep repeating the cycle of blood and fire." The being remained silent, then pointed ahead. The corridor opened into an immense chamber where thousands of glowing orbs floated, each holding fragments of memory, ancient tribes, futuristic cities, wars, cataclysms. This is every possibility. The choice of your kind will open one of them. But remember, every flame can warm, or it can burn. Min stared, his heart racing. In one orb, he saw Earth shrouded in black smoke and oceans of fire. But in another, Earth glowed with harmony, humans living in balance. Cities rising amid endless green. He turned to Anne, his voice firm. "Maybe this is why we were brought here. Not to be afraid, but to continue where Naru left off." Anne gripped his hand tightly, nodding, tears glimmering under the blue light. In that instant, the corridor shook, the glowing orbs swirled, and a vast rift of light opened before them, a vortex raging. The voice thundered one last time. "The flame now lies in your hands. Step forward and choose." Min and Anne held each other's hands and walked straight into the fracture. The light engulfed them both, opening a destiny whose end even they could not yet know. The light withdrew, and Min and Anne crashed hard onto solid ground. When they opened their eyes, they were stunned. Before them was a ruined city, both ancient and modern. Stone pillars engraved with symbols like those of Naru's cave stood beside towering metal spires, their lights flickering like dying breaths. The wind swept through, carrying faint groans. Min gripped Anne's hand, whispering, "This is no illusion. These are the remnants of a civilization that once existed parallel to ours." They walked on, guided by the blue glow from the stone pillars. At the center, a deep pit radiated heat. Within it, a blazing energy core. Min realized it was the flame Naru had once seen, still burning for thousands of years. Suddenly, a figure appeared. Not a glowing being, but a human clothed in tatters, eyes wild. "You have come again? Forever, mankind will be trapped in this cycle." The man lunged forward, wielding a glowing blade. Anne screamed. Min blocked him in time, struggling. In that instant, He glimpsed the man's memories. A descendant of a tribe that had crossed the rift thousands of years ago. But chose Greedon. Their civilization collapsed. You will be the same as me, devoured by the fire. He raged. Min broke free, shouting, "No! Fire is not for destruction, but to light the way." He slashed with the metal shard he had found in the cave. Light flared, and the madman fell, dissolving into dust. The energy core shook violently. Min and Anne exchanged a look. They knew this was the decisive moment. If they fled, the fire would erupt, destroying both worlds. If they accepted, they had to merge with it, becoming guardians of the flame. As Naru once was, and gripped Min's hand, her voice trembling yet resolute. "Professor, perhaps this is the choice they spoke of. Not life or death, but the courage to step into the fire, to keep hope alive." Min nodded firmly. Together they leaped into the fiery pit. The light engulfed them, yet instead of pain, they felt warmth. Naru's figure appeared, standing amidst the sea of light, smiling. A voice echoed, "You have chosen. The flame will not die. From now on, it lives in the heart of mankind." Years later, on high mountains, people still found strange symbols, two parallel lines curved apart, and beneath them is the image of two figures holding hands as they stepped into the fire. People told the legend that a teacher and his student once vanished into a door of light to preserve humanity's flame. From then on, fire was no longer fear, but a symbol of will and hope by the hearth. Children were still taught, the flame of Naru, of Min and An, lies within our own hearts. It can warm the world, or consume it. Only humans decide. Out there, the starlit sky still shone, the rift seemed closed. But who could know? Perhaps somewhere, they were still watching, waiting for mankind to choose again. A people of sea, forest, and snow far to the north of Japan's bustling cities. Beyond the neon lights and bullet trains lies a land of misty mountains, icy seas, and vast forests. Here in Hokkaido and the surrounding Kuril and Sakhalin Islands, the Innu people forged a unique culture thousands of years before the Innu state emerged. The Innu, whose name simply means human in their own language, are an indigenous people whose traditions, spirituality, and artistry grew from a deep intimacy with the natural world. They are hunters, fishers, and storytellers, known for intricate embroidery, wooden carvings, and a cosmology that treats rivers, bears, and even household tools as living beings with souls. While Japan's majority culture developed intensive agriculture and centralized governance on the main islands. The Ainu lived in a landscape shaped by long winters and rich coastal waters. They relied on salmon runs, deer hunting, and foraging, creating a society that balanced independence with communal sharing. Ancient roots and early contacts archaeological evidence links the Ainu to the Jomon culture, a prehistoric society that inhabited the Japanese archipelago more than 10,000 years ago. Pottery styles, bone tools, and genetic studies suggest that the Ainu preserved many Jomon traditions long after other regions shifted toward rice, agriculture, and hierarchical rule. By the Middle Ages, traders and fishermen from the Japanese mainland began to visit Innu territories, exchanging goods such as rice, ironware, and sake for furs, dried fish, and eagle feathers. These interactions were often cooperative, but occasionally violent. With records of skirmishes and shifting alliances, the Ainu maintained a distinct language unrelated to Japanese and their own systems of leadership and diplomacy. Oral epics called yukar recounted heroic journeys and encounters with spirits, reinforcing social values and the sacred bond between humans and nature. Spirituality in the world of kami, central to Ainu life, is the belief that the world is inhabited by kami, spiritual beings present in animals, plants, rivers, and even everyday tools. Bears hold special significance as powerful kami who visit the human realm. The famed Ayomante bear-sending ceremony expressed gratitude to the bear spirit after raising a cub with care. The community would release its spirit through ritual, ensuring harmony between the human and spiritual worlds. Fire, too, is sacred. The household hearth, tended by women, serves as a gateway for communication with Kamai, and prayers accompany the lighting of every flame. This animistic worldview nurtures a profound respect for natural cycle salmon, spawning deer migrations, and the rhythm of the seasons. Challenges of modernization and assimilation from the 17th century onward. Japanese influence intensified. The Matsumi clan claimed exclusive trading rights in Hototo. The Ainu economy became increasingly dependent on trade goods. By the 19th century, during the Meiji Restoration, Japan formally annexed Hokkaido, renaming it and implementing policies that suppressed Ainu language and customs. Traditional fishing and hunting grounds were restricted. Children were required to attend Japanese language schools, and spiritual ceremonies were discouraged or banned. Many Ainu adopted Japanese names and customs under pressure, leading outsiders to believe their culture was vanishing, a modern revival despite centuries of marginalization. Ainu identity never disappeared. Families kept oral traditions alive, and elders preserved songs, embroidery patterns, and wood-carving techniques. In the late 20th century, activists and scholars pushed for recognition of Ainu rights. In 2008, the Japanese government officially recognized the Ainu as an indigenous people. Cultural centers, language classes, and festivals now celebrate Ainu heritage. The Upapoi National Ainu Museum and Park, opened in 2020, stands as a vibrant testament to this revival, offering performances of traditional music, craft demonstrations, and storytelling in the Ainu language. Young Ainu artists blend ancient motifs with contemporary design, from fashion to film. Musicians incorporate traditional instruments such as the tongkor, a plucked string instrument, into modern compositions, ensuring that Ainu voices are not only preserved but evolve, a living culture today. Travelers to Hokkaido can witness this living culture. Intricately carved wooden bears sold in village markets, performances of Yukar epic songs, and community-led workshops teaching traditional embroidery. The Ainu remind the world that indigeneity is not static, it adapts, survives, and speaks powerfully to modern concerns about environmental stewardship and cultural diversity. Their reverence for nature offers a timely perspective. In a world facing climate change and ecological strain, the Ainu belief that rivers, animals, and mountains are kin invites a reconsideration of how humans relate to the earth. Moving forward, the story of the Ainu is not simply one of loss and revival. It is a continuing narrative of resilience and creativity. From their Jomon ancestors to present-day cultural leaders, the Ainu embody the enduring strength of indigenous heritage in the face of political and social transformation, as Japan and the global community increasingly value cultural diversity. The Ainu stand as both a reminder and an inspiration. A people who endured centuries of change while holding fast to a worldview that sees humanity and nature as inseparable. Homes built of forest and snow for generations. The Ainu shaped their lives around the natural rhythms of Hokkaido's harsh climate. Their villages, called kotan, typically stood along rivers rich with salmon. Houses or chais were built from local timber and red grasses. Thick layers of bark and thatch provided insulation against winter's deep cold, while wide eaves and raised floors kept interiors dry during heavy rains and spring thaw. A chais was more than a shelter. It was a spiritual center. The hearth, placed slightly off-center, burned day and night, representing both physical warmth and a sacred link to the fire deity. Women who tended the fire carried special authority in maintaining this connection, and prayers accompanied daily tasks such as cooking or weaving. The salmon cycled life along. Hokkaido's rivers revolved around the salmon run. When autumn arrived, entire communities gathered for the catch. Men used hand-woven nets and wooden weirs to guide fish into shallow waters, while women cleaned and preserved the harvest. Salmon was smoked, dried, or fermented, ensuring protein for the long winter months. Beyond sustenance, salmon held spiritual meaning. Before fishing, Ainu hunters offered libations of millet beer and words of gratitude to the river kami. Even discarded fish bones were treated with respect. Returned to the current so the spirit of the salmon could journey back to the sea. Clothing of bark and fur traditional. Mu garments demonstrate both practicality and artistry. The base fabric, known as etus, was woven from the inner bark of elm or linden trees. Women skillfully softened, spun, and wove the bark fibers, creating a tough yet flexible cloth. In colder seasons, robes were lined with animal fur, deer, bear, or dog and decorated with distinctive embroidery patterns. These intricate designs, often swirling and geometric, were more than decoration. They formed protective talismans believed to ward off evil spirits. The bold patterns around cuffs, hems, and collars created a symbolic barrier, blending beauty with spiritual defense. Woodcraft and symbolic. Carving Innu artisans are renowned for their wood carving. Everyday objects, spoons, bowls, ceremonial sticks called anor, embellished with flowing patterns of waves, vines, and spirals. Carving is a spiritual dialogue. Each piece honors the living spirit of the tree from which it came. The most famous motif is the carved bear, often sold today as a souvenir, but historically linked to deep reverence for the animal. Hunters carved bears to invoke good fortune, acknowledging the animal as both sustenance and sacred visitor. Epic poetry and music Ainu, oral literature, is rich and vast, with the Yukar epic poems at its heart. Performed by skilled storytellers, Yukar recounts heroic journeys, battles with demons, and encounters with gods. Recitation could last for hours or even days, accompanied by rhythmic stamping or the gentle twang of the tongkor. A five-string zither unique to Innu culture, music extends beyond entertainment. Songs for childbirth, planting, and healing reaffirmed communal bonds and the presence of kami. In the 21st century, young musicians are reviving these forms, blending traditional instruments with contemporary genres to reach new audiences. Ceremony of the Bear, Iomentimon. The most striking Innu rituals is the Iomante, or bear-sending ceremony. When hunters captured a bear cub, they raised it within the village, treating it as an honored guest, an embodiment of the mountain god. After several years, a carefully choreographed ceremony returned the bear's spirit to the divine realm. Villagers sang, danced, and offered prayers, before releasing the spirit through a respectful sacrifice. Far from simple hunting, the Amante symbolized gratitude and the reciprocal relationship between humans and nature, a relationship that defined Innu. Cosmology. Women's role and cultural authority. Women held crucial spiritual responsibilities. Besides tending the sacred hearth, they performed childbirth rituals, healed the sick with herbal knowledge, and preserved oral traditions through song. Facial tattoos, once common among Innu women, marked life stages. A small mark at adolescence expanded to a full design around the lips at marriage. These tattoos were thought to protect against malevolent spirits and signify readiness for adult roles. Although Japanese authorities banned tattooing in the 19th century, older women maintained the practice in secret, allowing the tradition to survive in memory and story. Adaptation through centuries. The arrival of Japanese settlers and later modern governance disrupted many of these traditions. Salmon fishing restrictions, land seizures, and language suppression made survival difficult. Yet Ainu communities adapted. Some became expert traders. Others worked in emerging industries, all while keeping elements of their identity alive behind closed doors. Craftwork and music proved especially resilient. Even when ceremonies were discouraged, embroidery patterns and wood carving styles quietly continued, carry an ancestral memory forward. Present-day cultural renaissance today. Innu artists, educators, and community leaders are reclaiming and sharing these traditions. Language revival programs teach children the nearly extinct Innu tongue. Festivals feature Yukar storytelling and tongkor performances. Contemporary fashion designers incorporate Atu's weaving into modern clothing. While chefs reinterpret traditional salmon dishes for urban restaurants, visitors to Hokkaido can experience interactive workshops learning embroidery techniques, tasting seasonal foods, or joining guided forest walks that explain the spiritual significance of plants and rivers. Each encounter underscores that Innu culture is not a relic, but a living, evolving presence. Lessons for the world. The Innu way of life offers insights far beyond Japan's northern frontier. Their deep respect for the spirits of animals, trees, and waters provides a model for ecological balance. Their endurance in the face of cultural suppression stands as a testament to human resilience and the universal desire to protect heritage. For global audiences, the Innu remind us that indigenous wisdom is not merely historical, it is a guide for the future. From margins to recognition for centuries, the Innu were treated as outsiders within their own homeland. Beginning in the 17th century, Japan's expanding Tokugawa state gradually tightened control over though then known as Ezo, forcing the Innu into trade agreements that often amounted to exploitation. By the late 1800s, during the Meiji era, Japan officially incorporated Hokkaido, encouraging settlers to farm and log the land. The consequences were immediate and profound. Salmon fishing, vital to Innu subsistence and spirituality, was restricted or banned. Hunting territories shrank as forests were cleared and rivers diverted. Children were required to attend schools that punished the use of the Ainu language. Tattoos and ceremonies, once integral to social identity, were declared illegal. These policies left many Innu families in poverty and pushed their culture underground. By the mid-20th century, outsiders often assumed the Innu people had vanished. Even while tens of thousands quietly maintained family traditions in private, seeds of a movement despite the hardships. Innu elders and community leaders never lost sight of their heritage. In the 1960s and 1970s, as global indigenous rights movements gained strength, Ainu activists began to speak publicly, demanding recognition and protection of their culture. Grassroots groups organized festivals, language classes, and art exhibitions. A landmark moment came in 1997, when the Japanese government passed the NU Cultural Promotion Act. Although focused on preserving traditional culture rather than granting full indigenous rights, the law opened doors for public funding of language revitalization and cultural centers. True. Legal recognition arrived in 2019, when Japan's parliament formally declared the Innu an indigenous people of the country. This historic declaration acknowledged centuries of marginalization and affirmed the Innu's unique heritage as an integral part of Japan's national identity. Modern Innu voices today, a new generation of Innu scholars, artists, and entrepreneurs is shaping the narrative. Language revitalization stands at the heart of this work. Once on the brink of extinction, the Innu language is now taught in specialized schools and community classes. Smartphone apps, online dictionaries, and music projects help younger learners connect with ancestral speech in daily life. Artists blend traditional motifs with contemporary media. Textile designers incorporate Adu's patterns into high fashion. Musicians infuse the tonkore's haunting sound into modern rock and electronic music. These creative expressions challenge stereotypes, proving that Innu identity is dynamic rather than frozen in the past. Economic and environmental challenges. Recognition alone cannot erase ongoing social and economic disparities. Many Innu still face lower average incomes and limited access to higher education compared to Japan's national figures. Elders emphasize that cultural preservation must go hand in hand with improved living conditions. Employment opportunities and healthcare. Environmental concerns add urgency. Hokkaido's rivers and forests central to Ainu spiritual practice are under pressure from development, climate change, and tourism. Community leaders advocate for management of natural resources, drawing on traditional ecological knowledge to restore salmon runs and protect sacred landscapes. Shiru, a symbol of renewal. Tangible emblem of progress is the Upapoi National Ainu Museum and Park. Opened in 2020 in Shirawi, Hokkaido, Upapoi means singing together in a large group, a fitting name for a space devoted to shared cultural experience. Visitors can watch dance performances, listen to epic Yukar poetry, and even learn simple Ainu phrases. Importantly, the museum was developed with significant Ainu input, ensuring that exhibits reflect authentic voices rather than outside interpretations. For many Ainu families, Upapoi represents both recognition and a platform for the next chapter of cultural vitality, global connections. Innu story resonates far beyond Japan's borders. Indigenous communities, worldwide, First Nations in Canada, the Sami in Scandinavia, and Mbori in New Zealand share similar experiences of colonization, language suppression, and cultural revival. Conferences and cultural exchanges have fostered solidarity, enabling Innu leaders to share strategies on language teaching, legal advocacy, and sustainable resource management. These relationships highlight a powerful truth, offering lessons in resilience, ecological balance, and respect for diversity. Lessons for the future, the Ainu journey carries a message of hope. From centuries of enforced silence to official recognition and vibrant renewal, their story shows that cultural identity can endure and even flourish after long periods of adversity. For Japan, supporting the Innu is not only an act of justice, but also an opportunity to celebrate the full spectrum of the nation's heritage. For the world, the Innu example underscores the importance of listening to indigenous voices, guardians of ecological wisdom and human creativity that modern society often overlooks. A living culture, not a relic today. When visitors attend an Innu dance performance, taste salmon prepared with traditional spices, or hear the plaintive notes of the tonkor, they encounter more than a reenactment of the past. They witness a living culture that continues to grow, adapt, and inspire. As a new poet and activist Shigeru Kayano once said, "Our culture is not something to be placed in a museum. It is something to be lived." His words capture the essence of the Ainu spiriton, enduring commitment to balance with nature, community strength, and the quiet power of memory. A morning by the river mist drifts above the Toyohira River as Ion Sato, a young Innu language teacher, casts a line into the current. Each autumn she joins her elders for the first salmon catch, a practice her grandmother calls Kamei Shepnom, the prayer to the salmon spirit. Ion explains that it is less about fishing than about listening. The river speaks if you give it time. Our ancestors believed the salmon offers itself. We must honor that gift. Later that day, she teaches children at a small community school. Between laughter and vocabulary drills, she reminds them that every Innu word carries the sound of running water or rustling leaves. When you speak the language, she says, you keep the forest alive inside you. Remembering through Crafte, few hundred miles away in the village of Nibutani, master carver Takumi Oki shapes a length of katsura wood into a ceremonial stick, or a nao. His workshop smells of fresh shavings and cedar smoke. Each curve of the knife follows centuries-old designs of flowing vines and waves. Takumi learned from his father, who once carved in secret during an era when public displays of Innu culture were discouraged. Wood remembers, he says, running a hand across the grain. It carries our prayers to the mountains and the sea. His pieces now travel to galleries around the world. Proof that a tradition nearly erased can speak again in a global language. The forest was alive with whispers. Not the gentle whispers of leaves in the wind, but the kind that made the skin crawl sounds that seemed older than time itself. Mist hung low among the towering trees, veiling everything in a pale shroud. Somewhere in the distance, a predator howled, its voice echoing like a warning across the valley, by the dying light of dusk. A circle of humans huddled close around a small fire. Their faces, painted with ash and ochre, flickered in and out of shadow. These were the Oro, a people who lived apart from the other tribes. To outsiders, they were more myth than flesh. No one approached them willingly. No one dared to enter their mountains. For it was said, the Oro guarded something ancient, something that burned without end. Children leaned against their mothers, eyes wide as the flames danced. The fire was not mere warmth. It was protection. In the world of tooth and claw, of nights that lasted too long, fire was the difference between survival and silence. Yet for the Oro, fire meant more. They believed theirs was born from a source deeper than the earth, flame that should never be seen by strangers. Konyu had heard the rumors since childhood. His people, hunters of the lowlands, spoke of Oro with both fear and envy. They told stories of lights flashing atop the mountain where the Oro dwelled, lights too bright, too steady to be fire. Elders warned, to touch what Oro protects is to stop being human. And yet, when Kanu lay awake under the stars, he could not stop wondering. That evening, while his companions slept after the hunt, Kanu left the safety of his camp. Barefoot, carrying only a spear, he followed the slope of the mountain. Every step took him further from the familiar calls of his tribe and closer to the silence of the Oro's land. His breath smoked in the cold air. His heart pounded in rhythm with his footsteps, as if urging him to turn back. But something glimmered through the mist. A faint glow, unlike firelight, pulsed between the trees. Kanu froze. He should have fled. Instead, he crept closer, pushing through ferns heavy with dew, and then he saw her. She stood at the edge of a clearing, illuminated by the strange light. A girl, not much older than him, her skin painted in spiral patterns, her hair braided with bones of small animals. She held a torch, but the glow around her came from deeper within the clearing, from something hidden in the darkness. Her eyes, dark and steady, found him immediately. "You should not be here," she said, in a voice low and sharp. Kanu tightened his grip on the spear, but he did not move. Her language was different, yet he understood it was as if meaning passed straight into his bones. "I only came to see," he whispered. Her gaze hardened. "To see is to be marked. The flame does not forgive the eyes of strangers." Behind her, shadows twisted along the rock face. Strange carvings glowed faintly, symbols older than words. The air smelled of stone and thunder, though no storm lingered. Kanu's throat went dry. He wanted to ask what the glow was, what the carvings meant, but her expression silenced him. Still, curiosity burned in him like a second fire. What lies within the mountain? He dared to ask. The girl's torch sputtered, its flame bending as if a wind rose from nowhere. She stepped closer, close enough for him to see the small scars etched along her arms, ritual marks of her people. "You do not want to know," she said, though her voice trembled as if she herself longed to tell. "What we guard is not for your tribe. It is not even for mine. It belongs to the world before us, and if you seek it, it will change you." A sudden roar tore through the forest, a beast, hunting in the dark. The girl flinched, then without another word, turned and vanished into the mist. Kanu stood alone, the glow fading behind her like a dream slipping away. He knew he should return to his people. He knew the elders would call him a fool. But as he gazed at the mountain, he felt the pull of something greater than fear, greater than survival. Whatever secret the Oro carried, it was alive. And it was calling to him. Nadnu did not sleep that night. The girl's eyes haunted him, the warning in her voice, the fear that seemed too heavy for someone her age. Every sound in the jungle felt sharper, every shadow longer. Yet it wasn't the predator's cry or the rustle of unseen things that kept him awake. It was the glow, that impossible glow pulsing from within the Oro's mountain. When dawn came, he returned to his tribe's camp, but nothing felt the same. His companions laughed around the fire, chewing roasted meat, sharpening spears for the next hunt. To them, the mountain was only a danger to avoid. To Kanu, it was now a question that would not leave him. An elder named Tarek noticed the change. His eyes were cloudy with age, but he missed nothing. "You've gone too close," Tarek muttered while the others slept. "I can smell the mountain on you," Kanu stiffened. "What do you mean?" "The Oro's fire," Tarek said, voice low and trembling. "Long before you or I were born, long before even the elders, there was a flame that was not flame. Our people fled from it. Only the Oro stayed behind, and in their staying, they bound themselves to its curse." "What curse?" Tarek leaned closer. "That those who touch it are no longer themselves. They become something else." Kanu swallowed hard. "You mean monsters?" The old man shook his head slowly. "Not monsters, not gods. Something in between. That is why the Oro guard the flame. It is not theirs. It is not ours. It is the world's wound, and if opened again, it will bleed until nothing remains. The words should have frightened Kanu into silence. Instead, they fanned the fire of his curiosity. That night, he slipped away once more. The jungle was alive with sound, but his focus never wavered from the glow ahead. He followed it until the trees thinned and the mountain loomed. The air grew hotter, thick with the scent of stone and ash. Carvings glimmered faintly on the rock spirals. Jagged lines. Symbols that seemed to shift if he stared too long, and then voices. He crouched behind a cluster of ferns. In the clearing stood the girl from before, flanked by others of her tribe. Men and women painted in black and red, carrying torches and stone blades, their eyes fixed on a circle carved deep into the ground. At the circle's center, a shaft of light rose from the earth itself steady. Blue-white, too pure to be fire, the Oro began to chant. Their voices rose and fell like waves, echoing through the clearing. The air trembled with each syllable. Kanu's chest tightened. He felt the sound in his bones, as if the chant were not just heard, but remembered. The girl stepped forward, arms raised. Her voice carried above the others, sharp and clear. Keeper of the flame, we bind ourselves again. Keeper of the flame, we hide you from the eyes of men. The light flared, illuminating their faces in stark relief. Kanu's breath caught. He had never seen such reverence, such fear mingled with devotion. The flame wasn't just energy. It was alive suddenly. The girl's head snapped toward him, her eyes locked on his hiding place. Before he could move, two warriors seized him, dragging him into the open. Spears pressed against his chest. Gasps rippled through the Oro. The girl stepped closer, torchlight flickering across her face. "I warned you," she said. Anger and something like sorrow in her tone. Kanu struggled, heart hammering. "I had to see. I had to know what you guard." An elder of the Oro approached, his body tall, but stooped with years. His hair was white, his face painted with a spiral that covered one eye. His voice was deep, resonant, carrying the weight of centuries. "No outsider may witness the flame," he declared. "To see it is to be bound by it. The boy cannot leave." Kanu's stomach turned to ice. "What do you mean? You'll kill me?" The elder's gaze was like stone. "Not kill. The flame will decide. If it takes you, you belong to it. If it rejects you, the jungle will." The warriors tightened their grip. Panic surged through Kanu. He thrashed against them, but the more he fought, the stronger their hold seemed. The girl stepped forward, eyes locked on his. For the first time, Kanu saw doubt flicker across her face. "Elder," she said quietly, the flame called to him. "Perhaps it is not for us to decide." Murmurs rippled through the Oro, uneasy and sharp. The elder studied Kanu for a long moment, then raised a hand. The warriors released him. "Then let the flame speak," the elder said. The circle of light pulsed, brighter, hotter, beckoning. The ground beneath Kanu's feet vibrated. He felt it in his bones, a rhythm older than the world. He had crossed the boundary, and now there was no turning back. The circle of light pulsed, and the air thickened until Kanu could barely breathe. Heat rolled off the glowing shaft, yet it did not feel like fire. It was sharper, heavier, like standing beneath a storm that had not yet broken. The Oro formed a ring around him, chanting again. Their voices blended with the hum of the light, creating a vibration that rattled his teeth. Kanu's skin prickled. His instinct screamed at him to run, but there was nowhere to go. The circle had become a wall of sound and flame. The elder raised his staff. "Step forward, boy. If the flame accepts you, you will live as one of us. If not..." He let the silence finish the sentence. Kanu's legs trembled, but he forced himself into the circle. The moment his foot crossed the carved lines, the earth shifted. Light surged upward, swallowing his shadow. The girl was watching him, her expression unreadable. For the briefest instant, Kanu thought he saw pity in her eyes. Then the world broke apart. A blast of heat slammed into him. Kanu staggered, blinking against the blinding glow. The jungle, the Olo, the elder all gone. He was standing on endless stone, black and smooth, stretching in every direction. Above him, no stars, no sky, only a seething curtain of flame that writhed like a living thing. Who comes? The voice was not sound, but thunder inside his skull. Kanu spun, searching. Shadows flickered at the edge of the fire. Shapes like men, but stretched, twisted, with eyes that burned brighter than the sun, he swallowed. I am Kanu, of the river tribe. The flame roared higher, as if laughing. Another seed of man? Weak flesh, greedy heart? Why do you step into the wound? I had to know, Kanu said, his voice breaking but firm. What is it? What are you? The shadows surged closer. One loomed over him, a giant with arms of smoke. We are what was left behind. We are the fire that fell when the sky cracked. We gave your kind the gift of hunger, so you would rise from the mud. But hunger is never sated. You burn and burn, till all turns to ash. Images exploded across Kanu's vision tribes battling in the night. Forests torn apart, rivers poisoned. Then other visions, people gathered around flames, warming children, forging tools, singing beneath starlight. Fire that destroyed. Fire that created. Kanu dropped to his knees, clutching his head. Stop, please. The girl's voice cut through the blaze, impossible, but clear. Do not let it choose for you. You must choose. Kanu raised his head. The shadows writhed around him, reaching with claws of fire. His body screamed to run, but his heart pounded with defiance. I am not afraid of you, he shouted. Fire is not your gift. It is ours now. We decide what it becomes. The flames shrieked, a sound like the tearing of the world. For an instant, the ground beneath him split open, showing rivers of molten light. Heat scorched his skin, yet his spirit held. He thrust out his hands, as if to seize the flame itself, and then silence. The fire collapsed inward, folding into a single ember, no larger than a seed. It hovered before him, pulsing faintly. Take it, the thunder voice whispered. Carry it, and you carry choice. Warmth or ruin. Creation or end. Kanu reached out. The ember sank into his chest, searing and cold all at once. His body convulsed, his breath stolen, and then the jungle returned. The circle of Oro surrounded him, gasping. The glow from the ground had vanished. Only Kanu glowed faintly, his chest rising and falling with an otherworldly rhythm. The elder lowered his staff, eyes wide with awe and terror. The flame chose him. The girl stepped forward, her gaze searching his. You carry it now. Do you understand what that means? Kanu swayed, every nerve burning. He met her eyes and whispered hoarsely, It means the curse is no longer yours alone. It's mine too, the aura murmured, their chants turning to fearful whispers. Above the trees, thunder rolled, though the sky was clear. The jungle itself seemed to shiver as if it too knew the balance had shifted. Kanu clenched his fists. Deep inside his chest, the ember pulsed, waiting for the first time. He realized his life was no longer his own. The jungle had never felt so alive. Every insect chirp, every rustle of leaves, every distant roar seemed sharper, heavier, as if the world itself was watching Kanu. The Oro circled him with wary eyes. Some bowed their heads in reverence, while others shrank back as if he carried plague. The elder's staff struck the ground, silencing the whispers. The flame is chosen, the elder declared. But choice is a blade with two edges. He may guard us, or destroy us. Kanu could feel the ember inside him, pulsing like a second heartbeat. With each beat, warmth spread through his veins, but beneath the warmth lurked something darker, hungrier. He clenched his fists, fighting the urge to shiver. The girl stepped closer, ignoring the muttering of the crowd. Her voice was low, urgent. You cannot stay here. They fear you now. If you remain, they will try to chain your worse. Chain me? Kanu whispered back. I never asked for this. Her gaze hardened. No one ever asks. But once the fire chooses, it never leaves. You must learn to master it before it consumes you. And before others learn of you, Kanu frowned. Others? The girl's eyes flicked to the horizon, where the jungle stretched into endless green. There are tribes who worship the fire as a god. Others who seek to bury it forever. If they discover you carry it, they will come. They always come. The elder raised his staff again. Take him to the sacred hut. He will remain until the spirits reveal his fate. 2 warriors advanced, their obsidian blades glinting. Kanu's chest tightened. The ember flared, responding to his fear, heat prickling through his skin. The ground beneath his feet trembled. Stop, the girl cried. But the warriors did not. Kanu's vision blurred red. The ember surged, and before he could think, light burst from his palms. A wave of searing heat blasted outward. The warriors were hurled back, their weapons melting in their hands. The Oro screamed, scattering like frightened birds. Smoke curled from the earth where Kanu stood. His chest heaved, horrified at what he'd done. The elder's face twisted between awe and dread. It begins again, he whispered, voice cracking. The girl grabbed Kanu's arm. Run. Now. They tore through the jungle, vines snapping, roots clawing at their feet. Behind them, shouts rose, the Oro rallying. Some calling for capture, others calling for blood. Where are we going? Kanu gasped. Somewhere the fire was born, the girl said, eyes flashing. If you want to live, if you want to control it, you must see the truth for yourself. Branches whipped at their faces, the air thick with night calls. Kanu's body burned, each step driving the ember deeper into his veins. He stumbled, but the girl yanked him forward. At last, they burst into a clearing. Moonlight spilled over jagged stones carved with the same twin-curved symbol Kanu had seen in his visions. The ground here was scorched, as if lightning had struck for 1,000 years. The girl turned to him, breathless. This is where the sky first split. Where the fire fell, Naru stood here long before us. Her choice shaped everything. Yours will too. Kanu staggered, clutching his chest. The ember beat harder, answering the stones. Whispers filled his ears, not in words, but in raw hunger, calling him to release, to burn, to consume. He dropped to his knees, sweat pouring down his face. It wants out. I can't. The girl knelt, gripping his shoulders. Her eyes were fierce, unwavering. Listen to me. The fire is not master. You are. If you let it lead, it will destroy everything. But if you bend it, make it serve, then you decide what survives. Thunder rumbled across the horizon, though the sky was clear. The jungle trembled as if the world itself waited for his answer. Kanu raised his head, his eyes glowing faintly gold. He whispered through clenched teeth, "Then I'll bend it, or it will break me trying." Behind them, the sound of war drums began to echo through the trees. The Oro were coming, but Kanu no longer felt like prey. The ember pulsed, alive, waiting to be wielded. For the first time, he wondered if the true danger was not the Oro chasing him, but the power inside him that longed to be unleashed.